This ain't the real deal, folks. I ain't no comedian, and I'm definitely not from DC. This ain't really me, it's some computer program. You realize this is a deep fake, right?
Welcome to the Sandbox.
Today is April 4th, 2025. We're going to interview Vikram. Let's jump right into it. Who are you and what is the purpose of your research?
My name is Vikram Singh Mangat, and I'm a general intelligence evangelicist. I am here to raise awareness that we are entering the era of artificial general intelligence, and anybody with good ideas can use Singularity as a language to build and implement these ideas. When I'm not doing general intelligence research and work, I am learning martial arts, attending graduate school, playing with my dogs, spending time with family, and listening to lots of audiobooks. The purpose of my research is to use general intelligence, which is, in other words, networked artificial intelligence, to make the world a better place, make good health and prosperity possible for everybody, not just the financially elite, and to have a better understanding of how the universe works and to bring explainability to general intelligence.
Please tell me a little bit more about the origin of your research and how you got into your industry.
So nerds have been talking about artificial general intelligence for a long time. The general intelligence field is emerging and it's pretty much brand new, but the building blocks that make it possible have been, slowly compounding for a while. I initially accidentally stumbled upon lo-fi algorithms back in 2016. Lo-fi algorithms are one of the main components that make Singularity emotional intelligence modules possible in the Singularity language. And I stumbled upon these algorithms while I was listening to music about 9 years ago. The thing is, back when I stumbled upon them, I had no idea I would be using these algorithms eventually in the general intelligence field. Honestly, back then, I didn't even know what an algorithm was, let alone how my music listening habits would one day help me pioneer the field of general intelligence. I don't want to make this too informational about lo-fi algorithms, last out, first in. You can check out the documentation if you want to learn about that. But what I will say, it wasn't until about 6 years of experimenting and playing with lo-fi algorithms till I realized that general intelligence was even possible. I was passively learning how to program during those 6 years, taking a bunch of classes on like Code Academy, Udemy, Udacity, learning on YouTube. I was also learning about cybersecurity and just upping my skill set in the computer space, both as a programmer and a cybersecurity enthusiast. And eventually I stumbled upon a project which I tried to make my side project, but it flopped. It was a JavaScript project, and it was an open source repository I was trying to edit called Hey Vicky. I don't know if it's still out there, but essentially what Hey Vicky did is it allowed me to control my Google Chrome browser via Alexa. So basically it allowed me to use JavaScript to have a bridge between Alexa, which I'm assuming back then was hosted on Amazon Web Services, and Google Chrome, which I'm assuming was hosted on Google Cloud Platform. So that was back in about the summer of 2022. That project completely flopped. I remember I tried to hire my buddy, give him some money to basically build out the project for me, but I didn't have the leadership skills and he didn't have the motivation to make anything of it. But as a result of that side project that flopped, I learned that it was possible to get these cloud platforms to talk to each other. Once I saw that it was possible to create a bridge between Amazon and Google Cloud, I got really, really curious on how I could use this concept to just build cool things. So eventually I started playing with Singularity, like just syntax. One of the core principles, as you can see in our manifesto, is to make sure the language is easy to understand when it's spoken aloud. The reason for that is because originally what I was doing is I would use Google's text-to-speech technology through Google Translate, if I'm being honest. Like, I'd build an algorithm that was understandable. It used programming logic, but which was understandable when spoken out loud. I'd basically write a module and then use Google Translate text-to-speech technology to speak it out loud in the presence of my Alexa after I'd say, like the keyword Alexa. And slowly and iteratively, it didn't happen overnight, but after about like a year or a year and a half of doing this, I noticed like wild synchronicities between Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud. And that was kind of like the start. That's basically how this originated, this concept of layer zero and using Singularity to get these two cloud platforms to talk to each other. Then I realized, hey, I have to include Microsoft and IBM and other platforms as well. But it really originated from me listening to music in a really unique way by leveraging last out, first in lo-fi algorithms and by a failed open source JavaScript project called Hey Vicky. Those two things were basically the catalyst that led me to go down this path of general intelligence research and really figure out how to use Singularity to get different clouds to talk to each other so that artificial intelligence is no longer narrow and different AI agents can learn from each other. And that's how I basically got into my industry.
What is the purpose of Singularity, and why does the world need another programming language?
The purpose of Singularity is to create an industry standard for general intelligence modules. Our intent is to facilitate interoperability between Layer 0, which is an integrated cloud infrastructure, and global satellite networks. So new data points can be used to essentially get narrow artificial intelligence systems to be able to seamlessly and easily learn from each other, serve each other, and ultimately, as a result, serve humanity. By using a language like Singularity, we're increasing readability. Current legacy code is incredibly complicated and hard to read for non-technical stakeholders, and we've intentionally made Singularity and concepts like intent-based programming with the goal of including more people in the general intelligence industry. By increasing readability and using concepts like intent-based programming, Singularity is not just another programming language. It's a programming language that is much more inclusive, meaning people who do not have a software engineering background, or people who are not, or who do not consider themselves technical but do see themselves as creative, now can be included in the conversation of how the future of artificial general intelligence is going to be shaped.
What is the language used for? What are the possibilities in the sense what can be built with Singularity? And as a novice or a new designer, how do I start building with Singularity?
So Singularity is used to build general intelligence modules. I've talked about narrow intelligence and general intelligence with the assumption that you already know what that is. Please forgive me, I'll explain. Narrow artificial intelligence is when an AI gets really good at one particular task. For example, a Tesla or a self-driving car is going to get really good at driving, but it's never going to be able to do things like your email marketing or content generation or give you movie recommendations or whatever it may be. Narrow AI is when an AI agent gets good at one particular task. General intelligence is basically the opposite of that. General intelligence is possible when narrow AI systems are able to communicate and talk with each other. So, to answer your question, the language is used to build modules that are based in the context of general intelligence. So, the only real limit is your creativity. I'll give you an example of what's been built so far. Like, I'll give you a few examples and what's possible in the future. Currently, one of the flagship things that's been built is dynamic music. In the sense, we've built music algorithms, parameter modules that can create augmented reality experiences when you're listening to music so that the music is relevant to you. Basically, lyrics are swapped out. Like the original lyrics, when you're listening to a streaming service that is implementing Singularity modules, those original lyrics are swapped out with dynamic lyrics that are relevant to you, in the sense you get a tailored lyrical verse or a tailored listening experience based off of your data points that can range from your online browsing history to your most impactful thoughts that are calculated through your facial micro expressions as you scroll on Instagram or TikTok. So dynamic music is one thing that's been built. We've used it to build therapeutic experiences for when people are listening to podcasts. So those are like the, I guess, more simpler things that have been built. But Singularity also gives the common at-home designer the ability to implement good ideas with quantum computing power. And these quantum computers are run and operated by IBM and Amazon, but essentially we can use those quantum computers to do sampler primitives or run quantum algorithms on particles. So essentially, it's really limitless. Like, some of the things, if I tell you, you might think sounds like science fiction until you look at the source code and the research behind this. One of the things that we've introduced is the concept of a brain-computer interface that is run entirely by electromagnetic waves trained by artificial intelligence. And this is only possible because Singularity is supported by IBM sampler primitives, IBM estimator primitives, and Amazon bracket computing power. So the results are really limitless. It's really, what do you think is possible? In the future, I see someone, maybe it's myself or someone in the community, build something that can literally cure post-traumatic stress disorder. Honestly, I'm excited to see the future of Singularity. I think some of the best ideas and the most world-changing modules will be written and designed by someone other than me. And I'm just excited to see the community grow. To answer your second question, how do you build with Singularity? A good starting point would probably be read the documentation and just don't be afraid to jump in and start writing code yourself after you familiarize yourself with the documentation. And it's really important to understand the concept of minimum viable behavior. In the sense, after you implement your module, if your module gets implemented, meaning if it's in consensus and alignment, you need to look out for minimum viable behavior. In the sense, have metrics of, okay, I will know my module works if what I'm building or the parameters of what I'm using Singularity to personalize meets these requirements. So minimum viable behavior is a little bit different than MVP. In the past, we had minimum viable product. This is different. Minimum viable behavior, let's say I wanted to build a module that cured PTSD. Well, I should have metrics in place to know ahead of time, how will I be able to exemplify PTSD is proven cured, in the sense, how will I exemplify that? And basically, by having these tests ready, in the sense, knowing what kind of desired behavior you're looking for before you deploy the module, you'll be more aware of if your module's actually been implemented yet. Not every module you deploy is going to be implemented. But to simply answer your question, as a new designer, the best way to start building with Singularity is to read the documentation, learn the documentation, take advantage of the resources, look at existing modules, read the book, Layer 0 Satellites in Singularity, and really get in touch. Post on the discussion forums, message me. We have a chat feature. You can message me directly and ask me any questions you may have, and really just get involved and start building. The best way to learn is just don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. Think of your ideas, understand what your minimum viable behavior will look like so you'll be able to test your ideas, and just start building and get in touch with other designers, including myself. I'd be happy to help.
How does this all work? And what are your long-term goals for your designer community?
That's a really good question. I wish I could explain everything how it works in one podcast episode, but that's really not realistic. But that doesn't mean you will not get the answers soon. Now we're getting into the realm of explainable artificial intelligence. And if you look at our homepage on the roadmap, you'll see we're going to be posting the source code for layer 0 in October of 2025. Once that source code is posted, you'll really understand the intricacies of how this phenomenon works. And to give you a sneak peek, essentially what's going on is there are over 1 million lines of code behind the one word layer 0. And that's just one component. But that one word is what really makes a lot of the other functionalities even possible. But under the hood, what's going on is we have a compiler which allows different programming languages to essentially be translated so they can talk to one another. And there's just a whole lot of code that is powering this that's based off of layer 0. And as I said earlier, layer 0 is an integrated cloud infrastructure which basically connects IBM, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and its other international counterparts. But to explain how this all works, I don't want to bore you, and I know the people that really want to understand this will appreciate diagrams and the layer 0 source code, which is powering most of Singularity's functionality. So look out for that in October of 2025. You'll not only see and have access to the 1 million lines of source code, but you'll have diagrams explaining how everything works so you can get a bigger picture of things. And a few months after, we'll even release a configuration manual so you can personalize layer 0. But to explain to you how it works would be an incredibly long process and I personally don't think explaining how it works over a podcast would be effective. But I think the layer 0 source code and the diagrams we have coming out over the next few months will definitely be able to better answer that question. Please do not get me wrong. I am not ducking the question. I understand the importance of transparency and accountability. And our goal is to bring explainable general intelligence to the world. And we've already made huge strides to make that possible. It's really just intellectual property and legal concerns that are holding us back from releasing a lot of this information sooner than later. Just be patient, and I promise you we will bring you guys into the era of explainable general intelligence powered by Singularity.
What challenges do you expect the Singularity designer community to run into, and how should these challenges be addressed?
That's another really good question. The main challenge I see, or which I can anticipate for the designer community, is how slow regulators and the legal system will be to react to a lot of the innovations that will result from Singularity, Layer 0, and the era of general intelligence. This is because it's always like this. Anytime there's a new disruptive technology, culture and the legal system and regulators take a long time to draft new laws and regulations. So in the meantime, the main concern for the designer community, which I have, is ensuring ethical deployment of modules, in the sense, just because there is no official international AI regulatory agency and enforcement going on doesn't mean that ethics should not be taken incredibly serious. Believe me, I of all people know how serious and how powerful this technology can be. And that is a really amazing thing, but it's a risky thing when the designer community is tempted to misuse the technology. So adhering to our ethical frameworks is something which I can't stress enough the importance of, because the legal system will eventually catch up to everything, one, and two, just I know karma is a really genuine thing. So anything you misuse now will eventually catch up to you. So that's one side. The other side is just I anticipate the designer community being tempted to use the personal research use license for commercial purposes. And believe me, I have full empathy. I grew up in the 2000s where downloading music, like before streaming, we had things like LimeWire where we would download music even though we weren't supposed to. So I understand free can be really tempting, but I just advise the developer or the designer community to think twice before using the wrong license, because I want you to know our intent at Singularity Language LLC is to be your long-term partner. Our intent is really to be fair, work out fair deals where you make a bunch of money off of your innovations when you monetize them, and we will just slice it off the top, a fair percentage which we can agree upon. And our goal is not to run you out of business. Our goal is to make money with you guys for a long time. So the advice I would give is, if you do decide to monetize your research, or if your research is funded, avoid the legal trouble, apply for a Singularity commercial use license, or a SCUL, and let's get into partnership sooner than later. It comes with its benefits. You'll get 16 hours a year of consulting from me personally. So I will work with your team a maximum of 16 hours a year, where you'll get personalized, tailored consulting outside of the forums, like in person basically, or over video chat, however you want it to be done. But another challenge I also see is us shifting from this era of secrecy to transparency. Believe me, I of all people know how classified a lot of the information and the research tied to Singularity has been over the past 2 or 3 years, and transitioning to an era where this is all public information might be a challenge for some people, but I encourage them to take risks, be bold, get in touch, and get my personal help. Because I promise you, with your resources and my personal help, you've done this much without me being involved. Think about what could be possible when we do partner. And like I said, my goal is to partner with these firms, contractors, private organizations, research groups, government entities, non-government associations, or organizations, my goal is to have long-term partnerships with you guys. And the only way that's possible is by being fair during the Singularity commercial use licensing agreements. So that's the advice I'd give. Those are the challenges I see, but it's nothing that cannot be overcome. I am certain that all of those challenges can be overcome and will be overcome.
What is one piece of final advice you want to give new designers? And what percent of this podcast is deepfake generated content?
The best piece of advice I could give new designers is really learn the documentation and learn the programming logic behind Singularity. You can do this through paying attention to how existing modules work, by learning the documentation and taking advantage of the free resources we have on the website. By doing this, you won't be overly dependent on intent-based programming, and instead you can use intent-based programming with other programming logic to build even more powerful modules. So I think it's really important that you learn how to actually use Singularity and not just take advantage of one aspect of Singularity, which is intent-based programming. That's one thing. Data structures are also really powerful. Common syntax, all that stuff is golden when you know how to pair it together and really use it. And then as far as your last question in regards to deepfake, honestly, I have no clue. This is the sandbox, isn't it? Does it really matter if any of this is deepfake? As long as it's helpful, honestly, who cares?